Commentary without matrimony is vacuity. It is empty in it of itself. It's fruitless. For instance, the church, or black Christians rather, we are outraged, but we are not engaged. We have a right to be outraged, but we have a responsibility to be engaged.
Amen.
You cannot shift a corrupt system that you are not a part of.
That's right.
You cannot tell the Egyptian system to let God's people go if in fact you have no relationship with Egypt.
Right.
Biblically speaking, approximately 4,000 years after the fall of man, when the earth was contaminated with sin, God didn't do anything to shift the systems of the earth. He didn't do anything because he couldn't do anything. He didn't have a license to operate on the earth. Well, some say, well, the flood came, he shifted the system. Well, ultimately, the flood didn't shift the system because Noah still gave birth to polluted offspring. So the cycle continued. But God couldn't shift the system because he didn't have a license to, because he gave mankind the license back in Genesis when he gave us dominion. And so here is the problem. He has the power, but man has the authority. Lord, look at the antithesis, as we can call it, antithesis rather. God has the power to shift the system, but he doesn't have the authority to shift the system. On the other end, man has the authority to shift the system, but he does not have the power to shift the system. Right. So God takes counsel within himself, saying the only way that the systems of the earth can be shifted, that I must place myself and put it in a man.
Right.
See, he didn't have residence in the earth. Your residence is the province of your license. You cannot have dominion where it is that you don't have domain. And since he didn't have dominion, he had to place himself in a man. And the man had the authority to shift the system.
We're not using our authority.
We're not using our authority. Our problem is we have lacked the ability in some setting to be the apostolic church. We're raising up people in the church, but we're not sending them out. We're so focused on raising somebody else up to be the next head usher, to be the next minister of music, next pastor, next bishop. And all that has merit,
right? But
it's bigger than that. It is not until we send individuals to Capitol Hill. It is not until we send black Christians into law enforcement that we can really shift the system of the world.
There's some things honestly that we're missing, and we're talking to Pastor Sutton about this because we know that the church always has had power. When you talk about the civil rights movement, when you talk about the Million Man March, whether it was the Voting Rights Act, it all flowed through the church. And the church was the primary place that was the ones that got the ball rolling to affect change. This generation right now is active because we talk about millennials. Millennials are active in the earth realm, but we as the church, what about engaging our millennials and others to really take that next step?
We want our millennials to be active, but we want them to be productive. And it goes back to the engagement. It's great to protest and to march around. But when you are in the system, you don't march around, you march to.
Right.
Queen Esther is in the system. She doesn't march around. She marches to the king.
Right.
And she says, if I perish, let me perish. I'm going to see the king. Right.